Colour blindness might not be what you think it is. This is because the term colour blindness is a misnomer, because most people who are colourblind can see colour. They simply have less good colour discrimination than most other people. So in this short talk, let's look into what colour blindness really is. First of all, let's talk about what most people think of when they hear colour blindness, that is inherited or congenital colour vision deficiency. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that most of us are trichromats. That is, we have three types of cone cells, which we'll call LMS cells for long, medium and short wavelength sensitivity. If that's gobbledygook to you, it might be a good idea to go back and watch my previous video, How Colour Vision Works, before carrying on with this one. Now, imagine we're looking at something, we'll call it object A, and our LMS cones respond. This is a visualization of what the responses are. For this object A, the L and M cones are responding strongly and the S cone more weakly. Now remember, an almost infinite number of physical stimuli could give rise to this pattern of cone responses. That's why we have colour mixing. But now imagine we look at a second object, we'll call it object B, and you can see that the cone responses are somewhat similar, but the L response is a bit smaller for B than it is for A. So we would see these objects as being slightly different colours. We'd be able to differentiate between them. So far so good. Now imagine someone who doesn't have any L cones. This person would be a dichromat, and when someone's missing the L cones in particular, we refer to them as protonopes. Hopefully you can see that this protonope would not be able to tell the difference between these objects A and B. This is because the S and M cones are the same in both cases. So the protonope would not be able to discriminate in this case. So there are stimuli that a trichromatic person can differentiate between, but a protonope cannot. But also there are stimuli that a trichromatic observer would not be able to distinguish between, but a tetrachromatic person, someone with 4 cones, would be able to. Do tetrachromats exist? Absolutely. But anyway, if people are missing one of the cone classes, they'll not be able to distinguish between some colours. Not all, but some colours that a trichromat could tell apart. So if they're missing the L cones, they're protonopes. If they're missing the M cone, they're deuteranopes. If they're missing the S cone, they're tritonopes. What does it look like to them? Well, we can use various apps that exist that simulate what it would look like. So this is a shot of the band I play in. I'm the drummer. I can barely be seen, but I'm in the middle there somewhere. The singer and bass player on the left is my sister, who is also a colour chemist. Anyway, the top left is the original photo. The bottom left is how it looks to a protonope. The top right is how it looks to a deuteranope. And the bottom right is how it looks to a tritonope. You can see that in all 3 cases, they can experience colour, but not as well as trichromats can. And I should say, of course, if you're a colourblind person watching this video, then I don't know how any of these simulations would actually look like to you now. So we talked about dichromats, people missing one cone class. Another type of colour vision deficiency is where you do have 3 cone classes, but the spectral sensitivity of one is shifted along the wavelength axis. This usually makes 2 of the cones much more similar to each other, and this is called anomalous trichromacy. We use the term Protoanomalous if the L cone is shifted, Deuteranomalous if the M cone is shifted, and Tritoanomalous if the S cone is shifted. Being an anomalous trichromat is not quite as serious a condition as dichromacy, but nevertheless it does result in less good colour discrimination compared with trichromats. The reason for this is that as the L and M cones come closer together, as they get really close, they almost become identical, and then they're providing the same information. And it's nearly as bad as only having two cones if two of them are giving the same information. So limited colour vision to do with the L and M cones are genetically inherited. We say it's congenital. I'm less sure about the conditions that affect the S cones. I think these might be mutations rather than being inherited, but I'm not 100% sure. But conditions that affect the L and M cones account for the vast majority of cases. And problems with the S cones are actually really rare. And when the L and M cones are affected, whether it's dichromacy or anomalous trichromacy, we refer to the condition colloquially as red-green colour blindness because it's colours in that part of the spectrum that are mainly affected. Inherited colour vision deficiency like this affects about 1 in 12 men and about 1 in 200 women. But inherited colour vision deficiency, which is something you're born with, isn't the only type of limited colour vision. You can also get limited colour vision with certain medical conditions like multiple sclerosis and glaucoma. And in fact, often for some of these conditions, having a problem with your colour vision and noticing that your colour vision has changed is often the first symptom, which is why it's important to regularly go and have your eyes checked at the opticians, even if you have actually 20/20 vision, especially if you do notice problems with your colour vision or changes in your colour vision. And then I mentioned at one point the idea of tetrachromats. So about 20 years ago, it was discovered that some people, I think it's only women who are affected, have 4 cones. They've got an additional cone. So they are tetrachromatic. And some of these people are functioning tetrachromats, which is to say they have enhanced colour discriminability. So it's possible to imagine two colours that produce the same cone responses to me, a trichromat, meaning that I can't tell them apart, but which can be distinguished by those people with a 4th cone type. So just as we might argue that a dichromat has limited colour vision, or is colourblind, to use that term, a tetrachromat might argue that we, trichromats, are colourblind compared to them. And most birds have got 4 types of cones anyway, and some fish have got 5 types of cones. What must their experience of the world be like? Well, we simply don't know. I don't even know what your experience of the world is like. And that takes me to one of my favourite papers of all time, published in 1974 by Thomas Nagel. And the title of the paper is "What's It Like to Be a Bat?" This paper is so famous, it has its own Wikipedia page, and I'll link to it in the description below. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.